Feeling inspired by hosts Ron and Tyler to work on your health? The MovieBuffs Podcast is brought to you by Time to Train Fitness, your home for on-demand workouts for every level of fitness. Exercise with amazing certified instructors that want you to push through any barriers. At Time to Train Fitness, you'll find quality workouts across 6 class formats, including indoor cycling, HIIT, bar, yoga, strength training, and dance cardio. Stream brand new classes releasing every week in our 450 plus on-demand workout library. Use the link in the description to view all of the membership options and to start a free 5-day trial. Get ready to press play on your next workout.
Hey everybody, Ronjam here, and I'm excited to talk to you today about our sponsor. For any of my fellow fitness buffs out there who love to train, you also know that hard training leads to aches and pains, and that's why I love today's sponsor, Royal & Pure CBD. Their philosophy is to enhance your life with pure ingredients that you and your pet can feel good taking. Royal & Pure products combine the healing properties of hemp-derived CBD with other active botanical ingredients to enrich your daily activities and ease the aches, inflammation, and pains that come from being active, aging, or just daily life. I use their salve on all my achy spots, especially on my recovery days, and I always use their PM tincture to help me get a great night's sleep and recover to hit it hard the next day. They're offering our listeners 20% off at checkout by using code RONJAM20. So if you're interested in checking out their great products and seeing just how helpful they can be, visit royalandpure.com and use code RONJAM20 at checkout for 20% off. Okay, time for the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the MovieBuffs Podcast, the strongest podcast in the world about movies. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Ronjam, joined as always by LT Gray, and you are in for a treat as this is the one and only podcast in the world where Tyler ponders out loud the effectiveness of a human centipede. Other than that, Tyler, how's it going today?
I'm excited to podcast today. I think we have some good topics and some random ass stuff.
Yep.
Brought to you by Ronald.
Well then, so we're both excited. We're both here. Tyler has written me off the podcast that he thinks a human centipede is a go. So stay tuned for more updates on that. Let's get warmed up. Tyler, what do you want to start with? I know there's a hot new segment that is taking the world by storm. Do you want to kick it off this week since I did last time?
Of course, Ronald. So before I get into this, there's some fan mail that Ronald wants me to read. And I have to comment on last week's fan mail. As I told Ronald before we started recording, it's a little bit of a joke that when Ronald brings stuff on the podcast or even in normal life, that Ron sends me a variety of messages throughout the day.
Let's call it a cavalcade.
Sure. And it's probably the most random stuff you'll ever see. And I've become immune to things that Ron says to me. It's probably me and Ron's wife that he just says the most random stuff, and it just doesn't faze us. That he could, sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. And so last week's fan mail, no idea what it says. I know some of our listeners knew what it was. No idea. It could be the first 3 words. If it doesn't make sense to me, I just literally just turn off. And I'm sure Ron's wife knows what I'm talking about. So I'll read this now.
Well, to clear it up, all of our fan mail, other than the one from like 8 weeks ago that I definitely did make up, all of the current ones are real. So Tyler is, sorry guys, he just doesn't get us, man. Like, doesn't get us. Anyway, so what's this latest fan mail in relation to?
Here it is. Ron and Tigray. Yo, you boys are so goddamn wrong about bat gadgets. It is in fact George Clooney, simply for bat credit card and the bat silicone lip covers to evade Poison Ivy's kiss. Love the show. Keep it sleazy. Sassy Steve in C-Town.
Wow.
P.S. The win would have been clear if Clooney had stopped being a little bitch and thrown on some bat nipple piercings on the costume to accessorize those babies.
Wow, dude. And I gotta say, Tyler, unlike you, I love our fans and I love this. I think this guy has a good point. Sassy Steven C-Town, I want to thank you for reaching out and sharing that with us. And I want to apologize to you and to all of our fan for
all of our fan or one fan.
All of our fan for our dramatic oversight on this. We should have known Clooney had the bat credit card. He had the lip covers and he had the nip covers to match them. And we won't let it happen again, guys. So, Tyler, now that we've gone through fan mail, let's get some news. You got any news for me to react to?
Of course I do. So first piece here, and this is one that, oh man, super surprising to me and probably Ronald. especially since we've been dogging this movie ever since we saw the first trailer. And I was trying to remember what movie it was, because I know that we came to the podcast and we were like, dang, did you see that trailer for Ambulance? It was the wackiest thing ever. But at the moment, Ambulance still has a fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. So
that was a spit take. I was going to do a real one, but I want to ruin my mic.
So, Ronald, my question for you, were we wrong, or are a lot of people super high these days and going to the movies?
I think for some reason, people will flock to see a Michael Bay movie. And I mean, they're competently constructed. There's a lot of spinning cameras, a lot of sepia, a lot of explosions. But you know what? Maybe we're in the minority here, dude. We don't get it. And sometimes it's something we got to live with.
Yeah, that's nice of you to say, especially since, according to Rotten Tomatoes, this is his highest rated movie of all time.
Shit, maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I'll watch it. I loved Pain and Gain.
Yeah, I watched it this last week. Next piece here. So this was one that I was actually hesitant. And when I was doing my research, I wasn't sure if it was actually real, because it actually came out on April Fool's Day. And but after doing some more research, I saw that it was legit. So Bill Skarsgard is slated to star in the Crow reboot. The Crow movie with Brandon Lee is a cult classic and a movie considered to be haunted by what happened on set. And so unfortunate event, how a stunt went wrong and it ultimately led to Brandon Lee's death. Ronald, what's your favorite story or kind of like behind the scenes movie that's considered untouchable, or potentially something happened in the past and people are just not touching that property anymore?
Ooh, well, I know I forget what movie it was, but someone got decapitated by a helicopter on a movie in the 80s. God, I can't remember the name of the movie for the life of me. One of the stunt people died in a motorcycle accident when she was doubling for Domino for Deadpool 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, back to your question that I didn't quite listen to. I don't think anyone should ever remake Anchorman. I love that movie. Don't go back and redo it. What else we got?
Not really my question, but that's all good.
I got a little confused.
So following the events of the Oscars, Netflix has backed away from Fast and Loose, which was starring Will Smith. And I'm not going to say that it was fully because of this. Prior to that, the director, David Leitch, he dropped out before the Oscars. So when the Oscars came, the event happened, it kind of pushed it to the back burner and they kind of got out of that. And this is more just an opinion here. What do you think about all this that's unfolding?
We touched on this a couple episodes back. I actually mentioned this in our latest episode of Back Day, where I talk all about Spider-Man 2002 and then kind of dovetail into a few other things. But obviously, it's terrible what happened between Will and Chris. Obviously, you shouldn't just let people do shit like that and get away with it. But it is weird if everyone's taking this hard and fast stance that this is the thing, man. Like, Harvey Weinstein has 81 fucking Oscars, dude. They gave, what's his name, Roman Polanski an Oscar after he was convicted of being a pedophile and fled the country, you know? So people still do Woody Allen movies. And that guy married his stepdaughter after raising her. So like,
yeah. Oh no.
You know,
it highly reminds me of the whole Tiger Woods thing when a lot of his stuff started to go down in the Masters, and it comes to mind because we just had the Masters this last weekend, and the Masters basically tried to shun and scold Tiger Woods when who are you, the Masters, to try to scold an athlete, to try to act like you're on this high boat when Tiger Woods was the first black athlete to compete there. And the Masters didn't even allow athletes of color. So to try to be on some high horse, it's kind of reminded me of the Oscars with that. Why all of a sudden 10-year ban when all the stuff that Ronald just mentioned there, why aren't you taking it?
I think you say all that stuff Ronald did. I'm like, what the fuck did I do?
That Ronald said.
Leave me out of it.
It's crazy. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, it's a real keep that same energy vibe, you know, like why is this so much of a bigger deal than all these other things? And then with Tiger Woods, like, yeah, he got some public like discourse about him, but it's not illegal to be a shitty husband, like to cut him out of his deals and stuff. Like, yeah, he was a bad husband because he was banging all these other ladies, but that doesn't make him a bad athlete. It's not illegal. Like, what is this weird moral stance, especially like you said, from a organization that was super racist, probably still is, but they were policying on a super racist platform of no people of color. And they're like, yeah, we can be racist, but you can't get your dick wet, Let the guy's dick get wet. Jesus Christ. What else we got?
Okay, moving on here. Tweet that came out that's always fun to kind of bring up in the news. April has well on its way. By the time we're recording this, and when this comes out, it's probably going to be the middle of the month. Most anticipated April series for you, Ronald. I got 4 for you here, and I probably know the answer. Barry, Ozark, Better Call Saul, and Russian Doll.
Ooh.
I know it's Barry.
What do you think the answer is? Yeah, it's Barry, because I've never seen any of the other ones. I actually did see one episode of Better Call Saul, but it was good, I think, but I've only seen 2 episodes of Breaking Bad. So I was like, I feel like this is a weird thing to do. So I just kind of cut it off.
I'm right now currently catching up with Better Call Saul. If you are a listener and a fan of Better Call Saul, they just recently released season 5 on Netflix and lead up to the new season, final season of Better Call Saul. So,
and you know what I do appreciate is that Vince Gilligan, who the showrunner and creator of both Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, they're both designed from start to finish to be a story that is the length that you see. So for that reason, I am going to watch it, but I just haven't. I want to wait till it's all done. But I appreciate that about television shows. And I don't know if people know this or not, but oftentimes when a television show begins production, they'll make one episode with a pitch, maybe a possible synopsis for a few more episodes. But you make the pilot, and then usually about 6 months later, you'll find out if you're making the rest of the show. So from then on out, if it's like on network television, they'll do 22 to 24 episodes. So your writer's room is writing episodes as you're filming them, right? So oftentimes there'll be logical or character inconsistencies just because of the density of the work. And then what happens is you're so grateful to get a show, you usually just go until they make you stop, right? You want to keep getting paid. Everyone wants jobs. Like Lost, I think they planned on ending it after their 3rd season, but ABC was so adamant. They're like, dude, this is a hit. We got to keep going. So you end up having to reopen these closed threads and just keep adding stuff that maybe wasn't part of the plan. So I always appreciate a television series or a mini series that is close-ended on purpose. They know from start to finish where they're going, because then you can build a logical and complete story arc and logical, complete character arcs. And there's something so satisfying about a well-built story.
That's probably one of the main reasons why Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad are so well reviewed and well liked. So next piece here, and it's not really a question, it's more just something to get out into the world because it's hilarious.
Statement.
So this one, oh man, I don't feel bad because it's Tyrese. So recently, Tyrese Gibson fell for a fake Martin Scorsese quote regarding Morbius. If you're on Twitter, you can go check it out. Basically, the fake quote was Scorsese saying how great Morbius was and how he was wrong about all comic book movies. Tyrese, he quoted it on Twitter and left praises for Scorsese. And a handful of people screenshotted it and then put him on blast. And it's just hilarious. It's Morbius, which has a terrible score, and a ton of people consider it one of the worst comic book movies.
Okay, well, they haven't even heard my review yet, so tell them to shut the fuck up.
And so, Tyrese, stick to Fast and Furious, and please let that end. But anyways, that's all I got to say about that.
Speaking of Tyrese, this will tie again back into our latest episode of Back Day, but it's one of those things where his public persona is a little odd, but everybody was clowning on him when he had this like very public mental health crisis about his like a custody battle with his children. Okay. It's a bummer, man.
I don't know. Really?
So bring that vibe right down.
I can't really say anything about that.
Richard Deborah Downer over here. What's next?
You did see Morbius, but I saw this tweet about favorite bad superhero films and thought it'd be a good one. And so on it were Morbius, Green Lantern, Fantastic Four, Josh Trank version, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Suicide Squad, and Batman and Robin. What's your favorite?
That's stupid. Obviously, it's Batman and Robin. It's the only good movie on the list.
Samesies. That's what I was going to say. But
because Batman and Robin is basically if it were a sequel to the Adam West Batman 66, just imagine that and all the problems are fixed. That's why all the lines are so campy. That's why everything's so overly colorful and out of control. That's why he gets the bat credit card and the bat nipple rings, because this is the 60s, baby.
Yeah, and I think I've made a joke about Fantastic Four, the Josh Trank version.
Fantastic.
About they should release it, and I mean,
release the Trank cut.
Supposedly, tons of drama, and I mean, the first time you watch it, I mean, it's bad, but it's really the ending is just super random. And
the worst part is how Kate Mara's wig keeps changing. That's hilarious.
It's I could see where they were going with it. That's really all I got to say about that. But the other one's on there. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Oh my goodness, that was painful.
That was like a turd in the wind.
Which we do
Venom himself.
Have an episode on, which you should listen to, even if you don't plan on seeing it, because it's just funny to listen about it.
Yeah.
And Green Lantern, I mean, Ryan Reynolds probably talks more trash on it than anybody. But next piece here.
I heard recently, apparently one of the reasons he hates it so much was because the director, first and only choice was Bradley Cooper. And the studio vetoed him and then hired Ryan Reynolds. So he was kind of, according to what people say, he was very kind of like dickish and rude to Ryan Reynolds the whole time and like kept pushing him and making him do stuff over and over again because he wasn't getting the performance he wanted because it wasn't the person he wanted. So obviously Ryan Reynolds and Bradley Cooper do very different things. So he kept like forcing him to redo it until he got like a Bradley Cooper style take.
Interesting. Well, when you think about it, I mean, they are different actors, but I mean, do they get casted into similar roles that you could see one in the other?
All white guys, snarky.
Moving on. A Sherlock Holmes TV universe is in the works at HBO Max with Robert Downey Jr. Executive producing. So no word if he will reprise his role as Sherlock, but it's an interesting pivot since there's Sherlock Holmes 3 and it's still in pre-production, hasn't been filmed, and the last one came out in 2011. So do you think too much time has passed actually since Sherlock Holmes 2 and has a different director?
You know, I don't know how it did monetarily, but I mean, Sherlock Holmes as a character doesn't necessarily have to be a young man, so it doesn't really affect him that, you know, RDJ is what's going to be 60 now. I just think it's a weird, like, you know, they say strike when the iron's hot. Well, they're like, hey, I'm going to strike when this bitch is cold as hell. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, it's very true. I know that we've actually talked about this in previous episodes. I don't even know which one, about the change in director and it not being Guy Ritchie anymore. And a lot of us like Guy Ritchie films. I do. And the style of it, the wittiness, the way that he approaches characters, approaches action. So with it not being Guy Ritchie, it kind of makes it not even the same kind of a continuation of the story, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it could run the risk of becoming, you know, just generic action movie. I feel you.
Yeah. Next piece here, because it's actually going to be pretty interesting. And I know Ron will have a good take on this one.
Ooh.
So this has been making its rounds on Twitter. And in my opinion, he's not wrong. So Will Poulter, he recently called out method acting. And so did Mads Mikkelsen, there we go, saying that method acting shouldn't be used as an excuse for inappropriate behavior. And it definitely has. Now, I'm not an actor of any sort, not at all, but I will say that as a business owner,
you'd be acting crazy,
a professional, even in the industry that both Ron and I work in, the fitness industry, there's individuals with huge egos and that they kind of believe that they're famous when they're not. So first question for you, Ron. What's your favorite method acting explosion on set?
Favorite method acting explosion on set. You know, it's funny. Mads Mikkelsen was calling out. So was Robert Pattinson. They were saying, you know, people only talk about their going method when it's an excuse to be an asshole. No one's like, I went fully method because my character gave away all their money and like, you know, was feeding people in their downtime. Like, no, you're doing it so you can scream at people and be a dickhead. Jared. But my favorite acting explosion is kind of the inverse of that. So notorious method actor and notoriously not very well liked person, Dustin Hoffman, was doing a movie called I think it's called Marathon Man with Sir Laurence Olivier, right? And so Dustin Hoffman was staying up 72 hours straight because his characters was be all frazzled and whatever. And he's just like exhausted. And at one point, I don't know if it was before the shoot or afterwards, because he said in character the whole time, whatever, he asked Sir Laurence Olivier, he's like, how did you deal with the rigors of this? How did you deal with all the stress of being up and having to do all this intense stuff in between? He's like, my good man, have you ever tried acting? It's like, your job is not to be the person. Mm-hmm. Your job is to portray them. So don't be a dickhead. Just show up and do your job like a grown-up.
Physiologically, it just doesn't make sense. If you're staying up for that long.
Yeah, and you're going to be bad.
Exactly. If you're an actor and you're acting and you're portraying a role, it just doesn't make sense that you would limit your ability to act, to do your job. It's nonsense in my head as you said that.
Yeah. And then the other thing, like if you're supposed to be so method, right? You're supposed to be living the character. Then how are you taking direction? Like if the director says, hey, you know what? That was a little low energy. Can you bring it up a little bit? I feel like in this moment, like we need a little bit more. Wouldn't you go, no, because I wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. Because in this moment, I wouldn't do that. It's not truthful to me. Well, what if like just it doesn't work for the coverage? Do you not take direction then? Because your character, the person you're being, right? Freaking Marathon Man McGee over here, he's not an actor, so he wouldn't take direction. He would just be tired. Like what? Get our heads out of our own asses here, guys. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, these days with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that comes out, even interviews, you hear about directors and them willing to work with the actor in certain periods. So if you are tired or you're unable to act because of whatever reason, you're almost limiting that. It's one of those things where the more the stuff comes out about actors and their egos, and I mean, some actors having bad reputations, and I mean, we didn't even touch on TC or Christian Bale, or Jared Leto, and these stories come out, and you're just like, but why? Like, why is it? I mean, like the one that I'll bring up now, there's even YouTube videos about this, and it got so much publicity about people thinking that Heath Ledger's death was because of the role that he played, the Joker. And I mean, I can't even tell you how many things I've seen. I'm trying to remember the name of the actor that played Spawn, and he's in The Dark Knight.
Michael J. White.
He was on a podcast, and it's on YouTube. You can go see the clip. He basically says that no, like he wasn't acting like that. Like he'd be.
I'm glad you brought that up, dude. Everyone says that, and it's so wrong.
Yeah, he would say like that. He'd do his role, he'd do his set, whatever it is, and then the second the camera stops rolling, he's back to joking around, being normal Heath Ledger. So
there's pictures of him doing a kickflip over Batman stunt double in between takes of the street fight where they catch him. Yeah. When they're doing the bat pod scene, there's a picture of him doing a kickflip over either Christian Bale or Christian Bale's stunt double. Yeah. That's not what the Joker would do, Jared. He doesn't need to ride around on a bicycle in Toronto in the middle of the night and scream at people.
It's acting. He's acting when the director says action, he's acting. And the second that it stops, he's back to being himself. So, I mean, some of these stories just feel like they come out of nowhere, and people want to put something to a story or to an actor to make it more dramatic. But there's a YouTube video that's like 40 minutes long. It's by a YouTube channel called Broey Deschanel. But she goes into talking about, people using it as an excuse for bad behavior and all the things that go into it. But anyway, if you want to check that out, I would say it's definitely a good watch. Okay, editor's note. It's a couple days later, and I finally got a chance to remember my point. In the video, she even includes a quote from Christian Bale talking about all of his method acting antics. And he basically says, no one ever asked me to do this. It's a way to justify to myself that this quote unquote sissy job I have is hard or is worth doing. And I think that kind of speaks to the point of all of this, is that a lot of these people, their ego is so fragile, they have to prove that acting is not just showing up and reading. And they seemingly are going at great lengths, and sometimes at the detriment of other people, to prove that they're doing something difficult. It seems a little bit asinine to me. That's all. So check out the video, Broey Deschanel on YouTube. If I remember, I'll put a link in the bio. But, I can attest firsthand, sometimes there are scenes where it's easier to just stay in the moment. Mm-hmm. And like I personally, like if there's a scene where I have to be really, really upset or something, it's easier for me to just kind of keep myself like physically and emotionally in that space
to just get it done because it's easier than going up and down, you know? But I'm not going to flip out at anybody. But, you know, sometimes it'll happen where, okay, we're doing the take and, shit, the light's off, like, or something needs to get reset. Then there's been times where I've been a little snappy. I'm like, guys, we got to do this quick, please. Like I've been in the mind state of, you know, being sad or whatever for 20 straight minutes and we're not shooting. But, you know, there are limits.
Yeah.
Be a professional.
Yeah.
Like there was one production I was doing and I had to be crying in this scene, right? And we needed a different angle. So I'd already done it for like an hour and a half. And so we're sitting there, they're setting up for the next angle. And I'm sitting there and getting myself prepared. And the guy holding, I forgot if he was setting up the lights or whatever. He's looking out at this lake we're sitting at. And he's like, those ducks are crazy. Those ducks, have you seen these ducks? And he's talking about ducks to the freaking boom operator for like 10 minutes straight in between takes. And I'm sitting there like holding back tears because I have to cry again the second we start. And I'm like, guys, can we shut the fuck up with the ducks for God's sakes? But I didn't flip out. I'm like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
And I said a couple times, I'm like, hey, guys. And that was honestly, that scenario was on the director to not be looking out for me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to scream at people and threaten to kill them or fire them.
Yeah. Well, we hear about those kinds of sets that conduces good acting and making sure that the ambiance or even the ability, the environment, that's the word I'm looking for, the environment for actors to act, that it's all part of the director, how they run the set. And I mean, we often think, the director, he's just saying action or he's looking for certain shots, but he's managing, he or she is managing the set, managing everybody on there to make sure that it's conducive to good acting and what they want to get out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, good little piece there, and a lot more than I thought. And I thought we'd probably joke a little bit more on it, but all good. And
well, I'm really glad you brought up to clear up the Heath Ledger thing.
Yeah,
because I hear people say it like once a week because I'm obviously constantly talking about Batman. And it's like, no, the guy unfortunately had a substance abuse issue that coincided with the release of this film, but he had been wrapped for months. Yeah. Dark Knight came out a couple weeks after he passed away. He was actually
filming another one.
Yeah, he was 7 or 8 weeks into a 10-week production of The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. And in that film, the 10 to 20% he wasn't able to film is picked up by friends of his that are playing him. So they built in a thing in the movie that his appearance changes throughout.
I'd actually never seen it because I just know that's his last one. And
unfortunately, I heard it's very bad. But
well, maybe that was reason too. We're going to move on here to something a little more lighter here. And an actor that we were just talking about in the Adam Project, he landed a big role, which is Walker Scobell, who will play Percy Jackson. Yeah. And in the podcast episode that we did about the Adam Project, we both raved about his acting chops and his skill, his wittiness, and his timing, all those things that you just watch him on screen. You're like, wow, this kid can act. And it was very apparent. So question for you. Did you watch the last Percy Jackson movies? And do you think a reboot was needed?
You know what? I really like the prequel Action Jackson because I'm a freaking huge Apollo Creed fan, right? I think everybody knows how much I love Carl Weathers, right? So I was really confused when the sequel Percy Jackson came out and he wasn't in it. So I was really disappointed with that. So that's why I didn't go see the Percy Jackson movies because there was no Carl Weathers. And I don't even think it was about Action Jackson's family, if I think about it, because none of these kids look like Carl Weathers at all. But I know that Disney was disappointed with their initial outing for Percy Jackson. They wanted to get a little closer to the source material. And I actually saw this piece of news and immediately sent the headline to my wife. I was like, I told you this kid is going to be a freaking movie star. And good for him because he was phenomenal. Yeah. But no, I've never seen anything Percy Jackson.
Gotcha. So that would be a great example for listeners, what I mentioned at the beginning, jokes that I have to look up while Ron is talking about them.
Did you find out what Action Jackson is?
I did. That's it. So, last piece of news here that came out in the last 24 hours, I think.
Wow.
So, Amber Heard was reportedly nearly dropped from Aquaman 2 over chemistry concerns with Momoa. Now, I wouldn't say it was awful chemistry in the first one, which, side note, probably one of the only times Ronald has seen a movie with me. But I remember hearing this prior to.
Accidentally, too. I forgot. Yeah. Remember, I had people over and you're like, we're still going to the movie. I was like, well, yeah, I'll see you there.
I remember hearing about this, about the chemistry. Like, people were worried that they wouldn't look and sound good on screen together. So I was definitely thinking about it while we were watching it. Mm-hmm. So first question for you, Ron, here is, do you think their on-screen chemistry was poor in the first one?
I don't think it was bad. Like, it wasn't distracting. Mm-hmm. I just don't think Amber Heard is like an actor who has a lot of chemistry to bring. I don't know. I've never seen her in a role where I'm like, yeah, she's very charismatic.
Super bad.
I did. She's in that movie?
No, it's not super bad. It's
you missed again, dude. Not Arby's, not Hardee's. You know what? The big thing that was distracting, I was like, wait, did she have an accent last time we saw her? Because sometimes she's got a British accent when she's playing Mira, and sometimes she doesn't. And that is what distracts me.
Okay. That's a good point there. Pineapple Express. That's what she was in.
Oh, okay. She was in Pineapple Express. She played it in a very creepy relationship with Seth Rogen.
Correct.
And you know what? She was so memorable in it that Tyler didn't have to stop the podcast to look it up. So
correct again.
On you, mate.
That's all I got for you.
I don't think I have any news. Let me check. Oh, the biggest piece of news. Okay. And I can now corroborate this piece of news. This is not a test, everybody. Morbius exists. That's my big news. Another big piece of news that I want to talk about that I do talk about in our latest back day, but I want to get Tyler's feelings on it, is Ezra Miller's recent arrest.
Mm-hmm.
All right. One more quick editor's note just popping in here. After recording this episode, and obviously after recording the previous episode, I was reading about Ezra Miller's fiascos and found out that they identify as non-binary, they, them. So unfortunately, I do use and misuse the he, him pronouns in this and the previous week's stories. It is not out of malice. It was just an oversight on my part. And I want to just clear that up. So that's it. Bye. And for anybody who doesn't know, he's had a few troubles. And I mentioned this before last week, that it is odd that WB and DC just don't bring it up. Like, it's so weird. But he's been arrested this time he was arrested for threatening and verbally assaulting a 22-year-old woman and her friends for doing karaoke at a karaoke bar. So he was bailed out by some unnamed couple who then he proceeded in the night to get into their room and threatened to kill you and your slur for the woman wife. And he took their wallets, he took their money, and he left. And then he was caught again. They put a restraining order out on him. Apparently they dropped it. But all this is to say, do you think DC should move forward with him as the Flash? I mean, he's in that movie at least twice. He's one of the few actors we have left from the initial Justice League lineup. What do you think they should do? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I know that you've joked about if this movie's ever going to come out. And I think you even texted me that further proof that this movie's never going to come out when that when that was dropped. So, I mean, at this point, I haven't thought about it. I honestly just thought, okay, him as the Flash, he is ingrained in that role, in my opinion. And the fact that he's done crossovers on the WB series too, that's pretty cool. But at the same time, I mean, look at DC. Look at what they're doing with all the roles. We got 4 Batmans, and we got, let me think, any other actor. We have all this drama with Superman, Henry Cavill, if he's ever going to come back, what they're going to do with the property. So why not? If it,
like 1,000 Jokers.
Yeah. Why not to actually get this movie out? If it's a good script, they have a good director. We know that.
Yeah.
And if it gets the movie out and it helps continue the story, I'm sure some of the Snyder fans will be mad because it's not their Flash, and they'll probably start a hashtag about it and all that kind of stuff. But
they don't have to do the release the Ezra cut. They might just have to do release Ezra. This motherfucker going to jail again. And I joke, but obviously he's mentally unwell, because the last big story about it was, I think I sent you this too. He body slammed some woman who came up to him on the street. He just grabs her by the throat and throws her on the ground.
Oh my goodness.
And people dropped the charges, but he did it. I mean, it's on video. He did it.
That's unfortunate.
Right. I think, like you said, maybe they just I don't know. He's still in Fantastic Beasts, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any way you could remove him from the Flash movie without just redoing the movie. But maybe there's all kinds of multiversal stuff. Maybe it's just time to, drop this, put the movie out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then say, based off what happened there, going forward, he happens to look like Grant Gustin. And they can finally cancel the Flash series, because I really enjoyed the series when it started, but it's another case of 24 episodes times 7 years is too much. It's just too much. And there's no way the budget or the writers or anybody can come up with like solid stories that whole time, because you have so much. Just they'll even say you have to like fluff the series, right? You got to keep it filled. So to maybe get him, I think he's always done a great job as Barry Allen. He seems like a more amicable guy with significantly less, felony assaults on his record. So maybe just make the switch, or maybe bring in a new actor. I think the fact that they are going multiversal and timeline breaking, obviously with Flash, it's a decent enough opportunity to go, okay, well, after this movie, now he looks different.
Yeah. Pull the old Batman.
Yeah, there's a Batman switch-karooski.
Mm-hmm.
Or just do an all CGI scene where, he thinks everything's all good, and then Reverse Flash kills him at the end of the movie. And then you just show him from the back, and it pans down, and there's a giant hole in his chest, and Reverse Flash runs away. And then like a second Speed Force bubble opens up, and it's a different version of the Flash going, oh my God, he's done it again. And then boom, sequel. You're welcome. What's the deal with you're welcome?
Just writing scripts left and right.
Yeah. Left and right and center. All right. That is all the news I have today. Tyler, what's coming up next?
We have a segment that Ronald has written. So this is a first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
We're all going to go through this together. So everybody strap in. Mm-hmm. Ronald has written a segment for us to go through, and let's see how it unfolds for right now.
All right, everybody. So I give clear instructions on last week's episode of Backdate that to go through this Morbius game with us, you do not only do you not have to see Morbius, it'll be better if you don't, because I want everyone at home to play along with what do you think is real. So I'm going to review Morbius from here on out. Full spoilers. I'm going to probably go out of order. Who gives a shit? And I'm going to review these things to Tyler. And after I'll give him 2 to 3 bits at a time, and he's got to guess which of them are real. I want you to play along at home, and we'll see how this whole thing goes. So, Tyler, I'm going to start my review for Morbius. Okay. So 1, do you think the movie exists?
Yes.
Okay. Whew. All right. He's 1 for 1, ladies and gents. My guy is heating up. So the movie starts. Inexplicably, they show the in association with Marvel logo twice.
What?
Okay. Yeah, they do. That's a gimme. They did that. All right. So it starts off with Dr. Michael Morbius in Costa Rica, right? He's touching down at this cave of the dead, going for some bats. And he's talking about the importance of the bats, but the helicopters are too loud. He gets off the thing and he's doing his little crutches. And the guy's like, do you need a doctor? And he goes, I am a doctor.
So everything that's been in the trailer so far.
Yeah. Which leads me to believe, did they just sit on that freaking helicopter all the way into the desert? I mean, all the way into the jungle, just completely silent. Like they don't know who this guy is. Also, why doctors don't go themselves to like find chemicals to do research on, right? That comes to a lab. Anyway, another give me. So he goes up to the thing and he's like, blah, blah, blah. He cuts his hand and all the bats come after him. And then it just immediately cuts to Greece 25 years earlier.
What?
We see a young and injured Dr. Morbius sitting in a bed, and a new rich little boy comes in. He goes, hello, my name's Lucian. He goes, hi, Milo. And he goes, no, my name's Lucian. And he goes, no, your name's Milo. Why'd you call me Milo? Because you're Milo, just like the Milo before you and the Milo before that. They all died. And he goes, oh no. And then the new kid, his ventilator breaks, and Morbius gets up, breaks a pen in half, and fixes it with the pen. And then the guy who runs the orphanage goes, it took a team of scientists months to build that. You did it with a pen. You're very special. Time for you to go to MIT or whatever. And then he just leaves. Now, what of that is real? Go.
Oh, man. Oh, well.
False. All of it. All of that happens. Next. Okay, so Dr. Dracula Morbius, he decides that he's going to splice bat DNA together with human DNA in order to fix his blood disease. They never mention what blood disease it is. He just has one. Okay, and then the guy from the beginning, Milo, he also has one. Turns out Milo is Matt Smith, and it's been 25 years. Tyler, do you think he still calls him the name he gave him to be a dick when they first met? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, he still does, and everyone in his life calls him it too. So Matt Smith also has this Dracula disease. He's like super rich still. He gives him money to do things, do tests, whatever. And then we find out that Dr. Dracula Morbius is also running a full clinic to help people with disease. But it says it's a full clinic. There's one little girl. She has a seizure. He puts her into a coma. You can guess if she ever wakes up or if they ever mention her again. Okay.
My guess is no.
No, she never shows up.
Screw that storyline.
Yeah. Okay. So he does the bat DNA and the human DNA and puts it in a rat. The rat dies while he's putting this little girl in a coma. The rat who he saw die, like it died. It died. It was dead. Wakes back up and its eyes are all red. And he goes, oh my God, it works. Then he goes to Matt Smith to get more money and a tanker, like a tanker ship, whatever, to go into international waters so he can conduct this illegal experiment. And then he has that guy hire 15 to 30 Eastern European evil mercenaries to watch over his back. Which of those three things do you think really happened?
All of it.
False, all of them. You're right. So he does this thing that he saw killed and revived another creature. He does it to himself.
What?
Unsurprisingly, he dies. Okay, while he's down there dying, everything's going all crazy. So the evil mercenaries, they come down all evil and they go, what is happening? They sound like Dracula's. And his assistant doctor, his coworker lady who went there too, she's in the movie, but it doesn't matter until the end. Then it does. She's like, you can't be down here. He's like, oh, you're just a nurse. And she goes, I'm not a nurse. I'm a doctor. He's like, you're a lady doctor. Might as well be nurse. And she goes, oh, okay, whatever. So that's our cue that this guy's a bad guy. He goes in there to see, oh, wait. And then they look and Dr. Dracula Morbius is gone. It's like, where'd he go? So they go into the little containment unit and this guy's on the freaking roof like a bat, right? And okay, so the mercenary guys have no reason to think that this guy's going to turn into a vampire, right? Because why would you? It's the real world. This guy goes, oh my God, and starts just shooting at the doctor who he's there to protect. He just starts spraying the place. He's that Frank Reynolds meme. He goes, anyway, I started blasting. So Morbius comes down, eats the guy, kills him. And you're like, okay, well, it's fine because he was sexist earlier. And then Morbius kills everybody.
What?
And then calls in a SOS and leaves his doctor coworker to be laying on the ground. She got laid out when everyone started shooting. She banged her head so bad that she fell completely unconscious for hours on end. So definitely she'd die, right? And then he disappears. What of those things happened? Go.
I like because he's a sexist. It makes it okay that he's dead. All good.
Yeah, that did happen too. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to expedite this a little bit. Okay. So they get back down into the freaking New York. All of a sudden he's got powers, right? And you think a guy who got powers from bats, right? What kind of powers do you think he'd get? He's a Dracula. He's got bat powers. So what do you think?
He can fly. Mm-hmm. He's got, what is that? Echolocation.
Because you've seen the trailer.
Yes. And so I basically know what happened in the movie.
Okay, but is one of the powers that bats have? Obviously, bats have the power for black and purple smoke to come off them whenever they move, right?
That's a new one.
He's got that power.
Mm-hmm. That's a new one, but cool.
Yeah. So after all these people turn up murdered, they start investigating him. Obviously, somehow somebody is being a bad vampire, and Morbius can't remember if it's him. It turns out it's Matt Smith, right? So now let's go to the end here. Oh, Tyrese is a what's it called? He's an FBI agent who mentions, hey, Dr. Morbius, thank you. Your invention saved my arm in Afghanistan. So it's like a little tease, right? They mention that. He always has his hands in his pocket. Tyrese has even said that his character had some like special abilities that are going to blow your mind. So just keep that in mind. Sorry. So they're all investigating Morbius. They arrest him. And then he realizes Matt Smith has stolen the cure and is now being evil Morbius. So Morbius breaks out and they go in this big fight. And somehow their power level is so high. They're like Man of Stealing this city they're in. They're just destroying it. Okay. Then Tyrese shows up with finally uses his robot arm that he's talked about in interviews and has been foreshadowed, and he helps him out. And then inexplicably, one of Morbius's other powers that they haven't mentioned, other than he said, these bats like me, he does a bat Hadouken or a Kamehameha and uses the bats to punch Matt Smith to death and then poisons him. And then the lady doctor, who again was in the hospital, Matt Smith got out of the hospital and then killed her. And then now she woke up and she's a vampire. Although these vampires can't turn other people into vampires, but she is one now. Okay, so what of those things do you think happened?
All of it.
No, Tyrese robot arm got cut from the movie. Tyrese just doesn't show up again. All right, so then Dr. Dracula Morbius, right? He thinks his lady doctor friend is dead, and Matt Smith is dead because that was his best friend, and Matt Smith also kills their mentor. So he goes rah and flies off into the distance, right? And you might not be able to tell in the trailers, but this guy floats like a butterfly, and by that I mean he flies like a loose bag of chips in the wind. He is absolutely a loose unit. He's just flipping and flitting around. Anyway, so he flips off, and then it goes boom, Morbius, right? Immediate post-credit scene. Okay, here's where it gets exciting. We're looking at the skyline of presumably New York, I think. I don't know. And then a big purple rift opens. Oh, baby. Okay, then it cuts to a prison. And who do we see? Who do you think we see?
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Yes, he was in all the trailers. And yes, it was the post-credit scene. So Michael Keaton goes, whoa, I hope the food's better in this universe. Why does he know he's in a different universe? Anyway, then it cuts to a TV screen going, a man showed up in a prison saying he's a guy named Adrian Toomes, but there's no record of Adrian Toomes or any crimes. He's going to be released. Boom, back to the credits. Right? And then mid-credit, boom, we see a guy in a sports car driving along a lonely highway, right? You're like, oh, who's this? Right? Because it can't be Morbius because he can fly, right? Wrong. He's driving now. He drives into the middle of the desert, and he gets out of the car, he looks around, and you hear, and you see something approaching, and it's approaching fast. And all of a sudden, you see the silhouette of Venom. Boom, end of the movie. What are those things you think happened?
All of it.
No, it wasn't Venom. It's Michael Keaton again.
What?
And how did he get the freaking suit? Because in the MCU, he got the suit from Stark Tech, and he didn't build it. The Tinkerer built it. In this universe, he just has the suit. He pops up. His mask doesn't open because it's not Michael Keaton in this scene. Obviously, it's just ADR. And he goes, hey, Dr. Morbius, I've been reading a lot about you. I think he's doing a weird voice. So I'm doing it too. I think a couple of guys like us can get together and do some real good. And then Dr. Dracula Morbius goes, intriguing. Boom,
does he really say that?
Swear to God. So that comes to the end of our guess what happened. Tyler got most of them wrong. You know what else got most of it wrong? Morbius. This movie, it's absolutely a nothing movie. And I feel everybody involved, I'm sure, worked very hard. The director is very competently put together. I think a lot of stuff was cut out. And I think Jared Leto's probably an asshole, and he definitely has a cult. So I don't feel bad saying he wasn't that bad in the movie, actually. It looked like they cut out a lot of the Jared Leto-isms. But that's oh wait, one more thing. There's a montage of Matt Smith flexing and dancing after he gets his powers. How long do you think that montage is? If you think 3 minutes, then you're right. He's in his bath, like doing push-ups and dancing. It's awesome.
I think the part that makes me laugh the most is how they showed clips of the end scene in the trailer. Come on.
Yeah, and you know that scene where he walks by the Spider-Man mural?
Mm-hmm.
Not in the movie. Not in the movie. Oh, that's one more thing. So supposedly this takes place in the Venom universe because they mentioned Venom 3 times, right? And then when Michael Vulture Keaton shows up, he goes, I don't know how I got to this universe, but I think it's got something to do with Spider-Man. And then Morbius goes, absolutely. There's no Spider-Man in this universe. There's no Spider-Man in the Venom universe. How does anybody know what Spider-Man is? And if someone says there's a Spider-Man, you're like, yeah, well, I'm a vampire. So I guess, you know what? I answered my own question. He goes, oh, you're from a different universe and there's a Spider-Man? Well, I'm a vampire. So fuck me, right?
So much randomness.
And that's all I got. That's all I got for today's episode, guys. I'm going to cash out early. Tyler, you got the rest of this. Bye.
Well, quite interesting. We all went through that together. We got a nice little run through of what happens in Morbius. So take it as you want. If you plan on seeing it, I'm still shocked to hear that it's making money.
I'm still shocked it came out. Hey, please don't see it though, because Sony's going to think it's okay to keep doing this bullshit. I hope they cancel that Kraven the Hunter movie because it's definitely going to be bad. They're just trying to build the Sinister Six, but they're all not bad guys, and there's nobody for them to fight because Dr. Dreikel Morbius doesn't have a rogues gallery, right? The Vulture doesn't have a rogues gallery. They're all part of Spider-Man's rogues gallery. So who do these guys fight?
It's a good question. Very good question.
Hold on, real quick. I got to scream. I'm just going to do it. Okay, and that's this episode's venting of frustration. Tyler, what's our next segment, bud?
Well, so before we get to our main set, going to give a little plug here for our last episode of Back Day with Ronald. Ronald goes into a big movie for comic books. It is the release of Spider-Man.
I go over that in honor of Morbius. And Tyler, you've heard the episode, right? What's your favorite part of my last episode?
You're at your last episode of Back Day?
Yeah.
You know I haven't listened to it, so...
All right. Anyway, we're nice and warmed up now, Tyler. What's our main set for the day after I just screamed and blew my whole load on this freaking Morbius joke?
Main set is a movie that's available on HBO Max and Hulu, and that is Death on the Nile. Director,
Nice.
Kenneth Branagh, which is interesting since he's also the main star of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a pretty stacked cast. It is Kenneth Branagh, Tom Bateman, Annette Bening, Russell Brand, Armie Hammer, interesting there, Gal Gadot, Letitia Wright, and Emma McKay. So follow up to Murder on the Orient Express, based on the novel by Agatha Christie. Like I mentioned, both of them are available on Hulu and HBO Max. Quick premise of it is, while on vacation on the Nile, Hercule Poirot must investigate the murder of a young heiress. So we're going to go through it as Ron already did. He gave the spoiler alert as he gave away the full movie of Morbius. But spoiler alerts are in effect right now.
Woo, woo, woo. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. No.
Before we jump into it, Ronald, what did, I know we talked about it. What did you think about Armie Hammer being in this movie and it almost pretty quickly going straight to Hulu and HBO Max?
Yeah, I think it was a little distracting.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, the trailer makes you believe that he is the person that is murdered. So I was like, maybe that's why they're just going to say F it. But he's actually in the movie from start to finish. He was a little distracting. I mean, his performance was fine. It's just, you're thinking about him trying to eat people or whatever. But yeah, definitely it shot this movie in the foot. Luckily, the way these films work is that Kenneth Branagh, Hercule Poirot, is basically the only returning character from movie to movie. So, they're doing another one, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I will say, just following up on the Armie Hammer thing, I couldn't help but laugh a little. At the beginning, there's a scene where he's doing a little bumping and grinding in the in the club, and he's definitely bumping and grinding.
Dude, these guys are horny for Arby's.
Side note of it, and I said this while we were watching it, was that I'm pretty sure Armie Hammer is a pretty tall man. Like,
I think he's like 6'5".
Yeah,
but he might be Hollywood 6'5", so he might be 5'10".
But he's dancing with Gal Gadot, who is a tall woman herself. Nothing wrong with it. And they are pretty close in height. I was like, they had to do something here to get them closer in height because I
think she's like 5'11" though, and then in heels.
She's listed as 5'10". So in heels, maybe close to 6'4", 6, maybe. So we're going to first talk about the first 35 minutes of the movie leading up to the boarding of the Karnak. So in the build up to the leading up there, it opens with a war scene, and you see a young Hercule Poirot and Hercule Poirot.
Hercule Poirot.
You see a young Poirot.
I was looking at the names. I was like, this fool's gonna have such a hard time saying anybody's name.
Poirot. So leading up to, I don't even know where I left off there.
There's the war scene where it's the origin story of his mustache.
There we go.
I laughed so hard. I was like, babe, I think they're doing the origin story for how he got his mustache. And it was important.
And his nurse says something about simple, you'll grow a mustache. And all I could think of right there was what is that movie? How the West Was Won and the mustache song in it with, who's that? Who's the Family Guy director?
Oh, A Million Ways to Die in the West. 1,000 Ways to Die in the West.
That one.
With,
yes. That's all I could think of once
McFarlane.
She said that.
Never seen it, bud.
Well, anyways.
Never seen it.
Build up to boarding the Karnak. A lot of character building. Who's who. How they're connected to the heiress, Gal Gadot. And
you know what? Speaking of that club scene, though, I thought it was crazy. So the initial couple is, what is her name? Emma Mackey, right? and Army Hammer are there. They're celebrating. They're listening to some jazz or whatever. And then they've just been engaged and they invite their friend Gal Gadot's character there. And she's like, oh, I want you to meet my husband. He needs a job, whatever. Okay, cool. I'll go talk to him. So Gal Gadot starts dancing with Army Hammer, who's her best friend's fiance. And they are straight up dancing, dude. I was like, somebody's getting pregnant tonight. They were going out of control. I looked at my wife. I was like, dude, what would you do if one of your homies showed up and was like, oh, nice to meet you, and it started grinding on your husband? Like, what the hell? Tyler, I mean, does this...
Well, she did, in all fairness, she did say, you two should go dance, something along those lines. So you took it literally.
She didn't say you guys should go dry hump. Dude, and this was the freaking 20s, dude. Dry humping meant a lot back then.
Well, it definitely did not have any space in between those the private parts. You know what I mean?
And I bet you if they were looking to get one more canceled criminal in there, they would have added R. Kelly to sing "I Don't See Nothing Wrong" or "With a Little Bump and Grind," because neither did they. So now that I've derailed us even further, so everybody's on the boat, then what happens?
Prior to that, in the build up to the Karnak, and the reason why they go on it is that Jackie, as Ronald mentioned, she was engaged to Simon, Armie Hammer's character, and they broke it off. So engagement is broken off, and to kind of get away, if they're doing some type of vacation where they have a whole wedding party with them and they're going spot to spot. So the idea is that they're going to go on the Karnak and they're going to get away from Jackie because she keeps showing up, ruining their parties.
Because Gal Gadot grinded her man and then stole him and married him 6 months later. That's a real freaking dick move, dude.
Yep. So they're
not Nar.
They get on the Karnak and we start the whole build up to the murder. So they stop at some type of landmark, a pharaoh's tomb, and all of a sudden we start to see the cameras moving, going to each character. Is this where it happens? We're all kind of waiting. When is the murdering going to start? And a close call happens. Armie Hammer and Gal Gadot almost get some rocks pushed onto them, and all of a sudden a dust storm rolls in, and they all get on the Karnak. And a little drama happens, and supposedly Jackie got on the boat somehow. She found them, gets on the boat, and shoots Armie Hammer's character, Simon. And this is where it all starts to unfold. Jackie ends up frantically freaking out, goes and gets some drugs given to her with some nurse. And here is where it all starts to unfold. And basically what happens is Gal Gadot's character is shot in the face while sleeping, just straight up shot. And so with all that, Ronald, so we just gave it away. Gal Gadot is the person that gets murdered.
Oh, shit, you gave it away.
Who did you at that moment think was the killer?
I'm not going to lie to you. I guessed it from the get-go. I guessed it. Spoiler, I guessed it when they got married. But yeah, for these kind of movies, I love a murder mystery. I like to guess them as soon as possible. It makes you feel like a smart boy, a smart guy, if you will. But, it's still always fun to see how everything unravels, and it's fun to watch it and see if there's any holes in the logic.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And having watched, I don't know if you watched the Orient Express. Did you?
I sure did.
That one, if you watched it, huge twist at the end. It's all of them. They all killed the guy.
Spoiler alert.
And so you knew there would be some type of twist. It wasn't just to be straight up, oh, Jackie killed her. There's going to be some twist in it. That was kind of my thought process, and that's why I guessed it as well. But we'll get there eventually. In this build up to it, they start to build out the motives. So the movie spends the next kind of 30 minutes building out each character's motive of why they would have killed Gal Gadot's character, Miss Ridgway, or Lynette Ridgway. At that moment, I was kind of thinking that it was first Simon's character himself. Like I mentioned, there's got to be some twist in it, and how is Jackie falling into it? With all this is where actually my wife asked, "Who is that character?" She couldn't recognize Russell Brand. When they're starting to build out all the motives with it, who of them do you think was actually a good one? Like if you didn't know any of the background, what would be your opinion on that?
I think I would have loved to see if she killed herself and she was framing everybody. I don't know. What do you think? Why don't you tell me what you think, and then we'll say it at the same time.
Well, I'll continue on with
Gotcha.
the movie of this. Unlike the first one, The Orient Express, more deaths start to happen. The maid, and sadly enough, Poirot's friend Book, is that how they said it? He is shot in the face.
It's Book.
He's shot in the neck, I think. So more deaths start to happen, and you're trying to wonder why. Why are these people dying all of a sudden on this ship where there's very limited people? Who is the killer? Why did they do it? And there is this kind of signature moment of the movie where everybody gets locked in. And it's like, we're not leaving until we figure out who this is. We have the unveiling of the killers. As Ron and I mentioned, we both kind of guessed it near the beginning of the movie. It's Jackie and Simon who said it all up.
My mind.
They planned this all out, and the bumping and grinding from the beginning was all for a reason.
Yeah, it was, dude. I feel like it's crazy that she was like, dude, I'm going to bring you here and you're going to freaking seduce my way hotter, super rich friend, and you're going to be married in 6 months. We got this. What a bold plan. And then we're going to freaking murk her, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. I don't know how that's the only thing that didn't hold up to me. I was like, a lot of contingencies were necessary there.
Yeah.
Because they had to get them separated from everybody. He had to hope that she would agree to go on this super long, super extravagant vacation so she can get killed abroad, so it'd be easier to hide. Like, that's the only thing that I didn't feel held up.
I can agree with that. That I have no idea why she kept showing up. And they were in together. He was letting her know where we're going, what we're doing, because they were setting her up. They're going to steal her money. Well, movie closes out with Poirot at a club listening to the singer on the boat, Solomon.
Skrillex.
Correct, Skrillex. Singing without, and he does not have a mustache. And the movie, to kind of tie in back to the beginning, the opening scene, how he kind of got why he got his mustache and why he does what he does. And even in the movie, there's a whole underlying theme of him retiring. When he's going to stop, when he's going to take off his quote unquote mask, this whole best detective act. And so he's sitting at the club and no mustache, kind of signaling, is he done? Is he done with being a detective? And who knows? But what did you think overall of the movie? Did you think it was interesting to watch? Good to pop on the weekend?
Yeah, I think it's a fun one. You do need to pay a little bit closer attention, though. It's not like, say we're talking about like Red Notice or something like that, where you just toss it on and just, whatever, because it does all rely on you paying attention. But I think it's fun. It definitely wasn't a waste of time at all. I did feel that the pacing of this one was significantly worse than Orient Express because they had that flashback and then the dancing scene, and then they had like 2 or 3 locations on their extended bridal vacation, whatever, before they even got to the Karnak. So I felt that kind of slowed the movie down. Whereas the first one, they're very quickly on the train and things begin to happen.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
That being said, I
would say it's very true. It took probably an hour just to get to the killing.
Yeah. I was like, well, but once it starts, everything starts kind of that domino effect, and you got to be really watching to see who could have been here, who could have been there.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it. I really love murder mysteries, and I do think they're doing more. So I'm excited. If I had to recommend one or the other, I would definitely recommend Orient Express over the Death on the Nile. But if you've seen one, I definitely see both. And if I had to recommend only one murder mystery, I'd say go watch Clue, because I love that movie.
Okay. Well, interesting. I would say that they tried to put in more deeper cuts there. Like I just kind of talked about the underlying discussion of him retiring. There's a couple hints when he's investigating Letitia Wright and her in the movie, her aunt, who is the singer on board, and about taking off his mask, retiring, all that kind of stuff. And that tying back to the opening scene, I mean, they kind of just feel like they're there. Like they just put those scenes in there. Okay, this is how he got his mustache. Here's how he started being clever and getting his name. But they don't really like play them out more. You don't really build on those. More of what you're talking about with, okay, we're going to this shot, we're going to this place. And finally, after an hour, we get to the killing after spending all this other time I don't even know what they're doing in the movie, to be honest. I'm like thinking about it now. It's a whole hour, but you're like, holy crap. Like, why hasn't anybody been shot yet?
They're just kind of faffing about.
Yeah. Well,
and you know what? When stuff like that happens, it kind of makes you want to go WTF. Now, Tyler, are there any moments that happened recently that made you want to say WTF?
So I wish I had remembered the one that I had planned or the one that came up after this. But over the weekend, I was watching a very random movie, Showtime, with Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro.
I remember the film.
Awful action comedy movie. And I just happened to be, I think, eating lunch at the time. So I'm watching it and I look at the screen and it's like the action scene where Robert De Niro is chasing this car after they all popped out with those crazy guns and they robbed, I forgot what they robbed like a bank or something. I don't even know what they robbed, but he's chasing them and I paused it and I rewound it probably 3 times, just pressing the back button because in the windows, you can see how it's hooked up to a, what are they called? A rig. So he's not actually driving them. You could actually see the lights. You could see the car in front of it that's pulling the car. So in my mind, I'm just thinking, God, that's so bad. But it's it's like, you guys have millions of dollars to do this. You couldn't have scrubbed that out. And
it's a little behind the scenes movie magic.
But taking that into 2022, that's what they do. That I forgot. Maybe it was, I think it might have been Matt Reeves talking about glasses and how they scrub stuff out. No, I think it was, no. It was the Suicide Squad director. I'm always so bad. James Gunn. He was talking about glasses and scrubbing things out, or like reflections. So Showtime, older movie, older action comedy. I know it's kind of a weak WTF moment, but that's all I could come up with.
That's fair, man. It is funny. Like a lot of times now, specifically when you can do it like on a set or whatever, they'll just not have windows on things. Whereas it's a little easier to put in a fake reflection than to pull out a real reflection and then add, redo the lighting, whatever. Oh, anyway, man. So now that we've gone WTF, we've gone main set, we've done Morbius, it's time to really cool off. So in our post-workout, what's the next thing we would want to get into, man?
We have your post-workout advice brought to you by Ronald.
Ooh, this post-workout advice is brought to you by Ronco, the only corporation that's represented and entirely employed by me. So my big takeaway is that, a lot of us, goal setting is a thing we hear a lot in both health and fitness and in our careers. And people tend to wait for that goal, right? Like it's the only thing you're looking forward to. But you don't want to wait for that goal, whether it be your dream body, your dream job, your dream partner, for your life to feel like it started, right? You can't wait on these things, on these goals to happen to be happy. Life is too short. So my biggest takeaway is don't wait. Don't hold yourself back from enjoying your life or, enjoying your day to day and like, oh, I have to suffer because I'm not at my dream job yet or my dream weight, or I'm never going to hit this lift if I don't like crush myself every day. Stop waiting. Live your life. Enjoy yourself now, because by the time you're done waiting, it could be all over.
Okay. Very deep and insightful there, Ronald.
Thanks. And this post-workout takeaway is brought to you by Ronco in association with John C.
One of these days, he's going to hear it and he's going to want to come on and we're going to dig it. Well, next thing is to get us a little more further cooled down is what are we watching, Ronald? What are you watching these days?
So the first thing I want to talk about that I watched is the new comedy special by Gerard Carmichael called Rothaniel. It was directed by Bo Burnham. It just dropped on HBO Max last Friday. Have you seen it?
I have not. I don't even know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
No, you know Gerard Carmichael, right? The stand-up comedian?
Nope.
Oh, well, he's very famous. He's had his own NBC TV show. He's
made it up.
I think he was on Saturday Night Live. But anyway, it's his latest comedy special. It's directed by Bo Burnham. It's really well shot. It's a very intimate thing. And he just talks about his life and living lies. And it got a lot of news because this is the first time he's ever publicly come out as a gay man. So it's kind of about that and about his life and the lies that his family has lived before, like his father and his grandfather and his friends' dads having second families and all this stuff. And really, it's pretty deep, but it's very funny. It's kind of like an intimate conversation with your funniest friend is what it felt like. So I would definitely recommend that on HBO Max. And the other thing that I watched, which I'm sure you're watching as well, is Moon Knight. I've seen episode 1 and 2. Episode 3 is out today at time of recording. Like I said, I'm a big Oscar Isaac Hernandez fan. My grandmother's maiden last name is actually Hernandez, so we were related. Who knows?
Who knows? Could be.
What are you watching, LT Gray?
Oh man, same things as last week with Minx, Tournament of Champions, Restaurant Impossible is that random thing that we're just binge watching now.
Oh yeah.
Mentioned Better Call Saul 5, and I just randomly put on over the weekend, just when I was watching TV, Homeland, and I literally don't remember anything from first season. I think I stopped watching after the third season. The main character, Carrie, just got a little too much for me, but it's a pretty well-made first season, that's for sure.
Nice. I've never seen it, but I do want to add an editor's note. I am aware that Oscar Isaac's full name is Oscar Isaac Hernandez Estrada, but my last name is Estrada, so I didn't want to harp on that, but I did want to make sure that everyone knows that I didn't forget. So you're watching Homeland. Anything else you checked out? Anything new?
Nope. On Friday, we're going to see the new, I'm going to say Harry Potter, even though it's not Harry Potter, but going to see that.
Watch a new Ezra Miller movie. Make sure you put some more money in his pockets.
Yeah, he is in it.
Hey, speaking of Mads Mikkelsen too, that's why he was being interviewed about that.
Yeah.
I think upcoming this week, my wife and I are going to go see the movie that you think doesn't exist or shouldn't exist, The Lost City.
Why?
I haven't heard anything about it, good or bad, but I think it might be a fun date night movie. And then I also really am going to try to get a chance to see Sonic 2 because of my affinity for one James Carrey. And I thought the first one was totally fun. Yeah. So don't forget to tune in next week when we review probably none of those things. We'll review something that everyone wants to actually hear about. So yeah, I'm glad I hope you all enjoyed this episode. That's it for our post-workout takeaways and what we're going to be watching. Thank you so much for listening and taking all this time out of your day to hear us talk a bunch of bullshit. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us and we appreciate it. Please be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at MovieBuffs_podcast. If you like this episode, please share it and leave us a 5-star review on your favorite platform. It really helps. The word of mouth. God damn it. The word of mouth. I'm going to leave that in. The word of mouth helps the podcast grow. It means a lot to us. Check out the description for links to our older episodes and all the great companies that help keep the podcast mics hot. Be sure to tune in next week when we discuss my growing Beanie Baby collection and then debate just when exactly I'll start seeing some return on investment. Stay buff, my friends, and I'll see you next time. Mwah. Bye.
Feeling inspired by hosts Ron and Tyler to work on your health? The MovieBuffs Podcast is brought to you by Time to Train Fitness. Use the link in the description to view all of the membership options and to start a free 5-day trial. Get ready to press play on your next workout.